Hello and welcome to Chess with Simon. I'm Simon, and this little bundle of brown fur is Chewbacca the dog. He's back. And this is a pouch of Sheba, which I know Chewy likes a lot, don't you, Chewy? But there's no bowl to feed him with, so it could get messy. But if we see any startling and beautiful tactics, then I think we should probably give Chewy some Sheba to celebrate him out when I get down. Do you want to get down? Oh, come on, just stay up for a bit, buddy. You want to get down? I'm not sure he knows himself. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of games by Will Burt in the OCA, Oxford Chess Association, Cowley Blitz. They're both absolutely fantastic. One of them is against second place. Get down, come on, down you come. Second place player Phil. Beautiful and interesting, and not without theoretical interest, actually. And I play Phil every now and then, so this is quite good to know. Very quick French defence. Let's have a look. E4, E6. So knight C3. Bishop B4 by Phil, which is the winnower variation. Very principled and exciting variation. And so I think normal here is to play pawn E5. That was Chewy having a shake, by the way. He's now settled down on the ground. Normal is to play E5 here, but Will innovates with bishop D3. Phil chops it off, which is the Cumnor book move. White takes back, so there's a bishop there in a threatening position. Knight F6, and then bishop F3 is often played. We got knight G5 here, pinning the knight. Feels natural, doesn't it? C5, this is again not enormously common, but certainly not at all bad. In fact, I suspect these play each other quite a lot. I suspect they both know what they're doing here. C5 is an engine move. Knight F3, natural development, although the engine wants to do a bunch of taking here, taking on C5 or taking on F6. I think development is always good, though. Black's a bit better here. White's castled. So White's just getting the pieces out, developing, castling, and now Black's castled, and all of a sudden White's quite a lot better. And we're going to see why. Because basically White's castling unlocked this possibility, liquidating there, and then using this square for the knight. Oh dear. This is a good move. And oddly, I got caught in a game against Phil in a similar situation where he played C4 and I played E5, and my knight got pinned against my queen. My dark square bishop was out doing other duties. It may even have been on B4 actually, but it was a reverse Sicilian, but it may even have been on B4, and he doubled the pawns around my king, and I think probably won the game, caused me enormous problems. So this pinned knight is attacked by the knight on E4. Phil's trying to break it with H6, but takes, and now takes the pawn, and this looks a bit tough for Black. Indeed, the engine just sort of says it's gone, because the rook's attacked. Landing a queen on G7 would be curtains. It's really hard for Black, this. Black takes here, and Will finds the accurate and beautiful move, knight E5. My understanding of this move is it's not really about what the knight can attack. For instance, it's not really about the fact that the knight's got a fork on C6. It's more just opening a pathway for the queen. So the queen arriving on G4 is the end of the world, because queen arrives on G4, king has to go to H7, queen hits G7, and it's checkmate. The engine wants to stop it with F5. Phil stops it this way, but then here there's a discovered check, and again the rook's still hanging. Rook here, but unfortunately the rook was defending the F pawn. There's a mate in 2 check. King takes, check. So I don't know how many pieces got sacrificed. Probably by the look of it, well, just one piece actually got sacrificed. But when you know there's a forced checkmate, why not? So that was a really pretty game. And what did we learn from this? What we learn is there's a nice new way of playing the winnower as White, and we also learn, well, a pretty tactic really here. I mean, I suppose this was the key, just really freeing up that E4 square, putting the knight on the E4 square, and after this, it's just one of those things, you know, it's a quick game. Black's got his work cut out. I mean, Phil went on to come second in the whole tournament, so well done him. But this particular game, Will played absolutely brilliantly. Okay, we're going to look at one between Will and Gareth. Now, this is an extraordinary game of chess. It's extraordinary for many, many reasons. One of the reasons it's extraordinary is because we see a brand new novelty on move 2, which you hardly ever see at this standard of chess. So Black is so innovative that he plays a novelty on move 2. So let's have a look. D4, D5. So far, so standard. In fact, D5 is not the most popular response to D4. Knight F6 is, but okay. But D5 is a solid, standard, sensible move. All the S's. Gareth plays G3. Now, I'm trying to think if this is actually inaccurate. So this is not typical. So very typical would be C4 or Knight F3 or even Bishop F4, the London system. G3 is less popular, but it's not clear that it's actually even inaccurate, because if it's inaccurate, how does Black exploit it? I mean, you might say C5 exploits it, right? Well, the engine says White can take that, but also, I suppose I like this. Okay, but actually the database says this is no good because of what, E5. And then you've got to play Knight B3. Okay, so the database doesn't like that so much. What the database likes here is just to take, or potentially play Bishop G2 even. Yeah, okay, fine. So the point really for me is that it's not clear whether G3 is an inaccuracy, but G3 does give Will a chance to play the Blackmar-Dietmar gambit reversed, which is absolutely fascinating. It's never been done before. And it's completely sensible. I mean, in other words, it's not clear that G3 really helps White defend against this gambit, which is usually played by White. So it usually goes D4, D5, E4. But White's got this extra move G3. So Gareth accepts. And both of these players are brilliant tactical players, so it's going to be really interesting, and it turns out to be really interesting. Will plays F6. I would play Knight C6 here, which is consistent with the spirit of the gambit, and actually the engine just likes them both, so hey, we're all right. F6, takes. So the engine says that White is better, but I still think this is a good concept for Black, and it's quite interesting, and I'd give it a try. Of course, you can't do it after Knight F3, because you really do blunder a pawn then, because the knight can take. Although now I want to know, I'm all over the place. Now I want to know, after Knight F3, if you play E5, which is the best? Well, they're equal. They're equal, and it's just not very common. But White's a lot better. The point is, that Knight F3 move is more useful in defending this. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so let's have a look. Bishop G2, Bishop E6 to defend that pawn. Didn't need defending quite yet, but fine. Knight F3, sensible developing move. Getting these pieces out onto attacking squares. The engine says White's quite a lot better here. Gareth plays this move, which you can't disagree with. In fact, indeed, the engine likes it. Bishop backs up, and now C4, which is very much in the spirit of these sort of Reti, reverse Grunfeld, Catalan positions, whatever you call this really. Just basically attacking that D pawn. I think if Will takes, I suppose B7 drops, which loses an exchange or a rook or something. So this is a sensible and good move, and just creates tensions in the position. Black castles, the engine wants to take on D5, you see why. It's a pretty good move actually. White castles, Will wants to shore up that pawn. He's worried about the weakness along that light square diagonal. Again, good move from Gareth, I think, this. Queen B3, just hitting that weak pawn. I think the engine move is Queen B6, but you don't want to play that, do you? I mean, because Black sacrificed, well, only a pawn, but to get the queens off at this point would be uncomfortable. I'm trying to think if another pawn drops. Not immediately is the answer. But Black would get double pawns on the B file. In fact, the engine wouldn't take, but that's engines for you. Takes, check. So again, White's better here, just objectively better. Take a look at the time, and Gareth's using a bit more time, and this will become a factor. After all, it is Blitz. And it's always important to keep an eye on time. Even in classical or rapid, the time really matters in chess. Okay, pawn e4. So, not yet threatening a fork on e5, but you can see the day. Black wants to break this pin, so the knight's available for offensive duties, and manages to do so. And now just gain some space on the queen side. Queen can't take on. I suppose the worry is, yeah, the queen can't take on c6 because it's defended by the bishop. So although the pawn's attacked twice, we'd have to take with the queen first, which is no good. You can't take with the knight because then the queen hangs. Okay. Knight jumps in. Again, white's objectively better. But black's just getting space, trying to seize the initiative, trying to create threats. And so why does this work? Oh, because it's attacked 3 times. So grabs a pawn in the centre. And all of a sudden now, black is objectively better. So black's sort of taken over the centre, but it feels to me, I mean, black's holding this. The position feels quite brittle to me. But everything's defended. Okay, so now bishop on the long diagonal. And maybe this is where this brittle comment came in, because all of a sudden, white's a lot better. So how has this happened? It's happened, I think, because of the weakness of g6. Is that right? We don't even quite know. I think... Okay, Gareth played the move. Will played this, and now the engine really has white winning. And Gareth makes the right move, takes. Black takes here, takes the rook. So everyone's playing the engine moves. Brilliant stuff by both players, really accurate. So threatening, it's not quite checkmate in 1, but it's threatening to take on h2 with check. The king would then move to f1. So here the engine wants bishop g7, which is very, very hard to see. But Gareth hoovers up that spare bishop very sensibly. Black plays the check, king f1, and now the rook. Look at this. I mean, how threatening does it get? So we've got this rook on the f-file. If I were white here, I don't know what to do really. I mean, so there's no immediate mating threat, but the bishop can take on g3. I mean, luckily I'm not having to play this. So white hoovers up that free knight. Quick check on the material is that black is a rook down, but with real threats. Takes on g3, so that pawn is pinned. Rook takes f2 is checkmate. Has to be stopped. Only one way to stop it, I think. Well, is there one way to stop it? So pawn f3 is one way to stop it. The engine's second choice is to sack the queen, queen e8. So why can't you play rook e2? Should we just have a quick look at rook e2? Does the knight take on f2 or something? Yeah, knight or bishop takes on f2. Attacking the queen with a discovery. It's pretty grim. And again, the computer's sacking the queen. So it's really, really tough. Luckily for white, white has this f2 move. Now bishop f2, which Will finds. Gosh. And let's look at the time on the clocks. This is incredible, actually. 10 seconds for Gareth and 12 seconds for Will. So there's no time whatsoever to be finding these incredibly complex moves. So white picks up the knight. Again, not quite the engine move, but pretty close, pretty close. Queen g1 check, but it's not mate. King can slide out. Check here. King can slide out. And actually they're gaining time because they're playing these moves instantly. Check here. And all of a sudden, white's better. So what did black have to play? Black had to take on e1. And it's really hard to take back. When white takes back, black takes back with a queen with check. So this got played, which you understand why. So rook takes, queen takes again, but it's not quite enough because king d3 is the move that wins for white. I mean, this is, 14 seconds and 12 seconds. So they're actually moving faster than the increment now. They're gaining time. Now the game's drawn, and now white's winning because bishop b6 was better. I mean, it's very hard to see that. You know, black just instinctively gives a check, just a forcing move. And now black is winning. So after this check, what white had to do was hoover up the bishop. But, you know, black's got 6 seconds. White's got 13. Checking the other file. Now black's got forced checkmate. Now he hasn't. So where was the forced checkmate? Rook d8 was the forced checkmate. Checkmate in 8. And the queen has to go in the way. Check here. It's drawing. Check here. And you can spend the rest of your life doing the variations on this game. And I may look at it again later on. Black finds this really cute check here. Knight can't take because it's pinned. And that was the engine move, which is enough to hold the balance, keep the draw. Black's down to 5 seconds. Takes the knight. White takes here. So all of a sudden you think black can't really checkmate because black is now 2 whole rooks down. There's almost not the material to checkmate with rooks and queens. With white's rooks and queens pretty nearby. Pretty hard to mate here. Check. King squeezes out. Check. King runs. Check. King runs. Now you've got to say white's going to win this because the king is close enough to the queen to believe that he can defend his king or he can swap off. But it's 5 seconds plays 6 seconds, so it's kind of lottery stakes. Check. Rook in the way. Great move. Now white's winning. Blocks the check with tempo. You know, black hasn't got very much here. Look, the queen's in the way. All the defence. So black's queen just runs back here. I suppose black now has to defend against rook e8 checkmate, but white has mate in 6. For instance, rook a e1. Black has 3 seconds. Queen here, I suppose, threatening the fork on e8, and unfortunately for white, fortunately for black, with 3 seconds left on the clock, at 1.0 seconds, black plays queen g5 checkmate. I can't imagine what it was like to play that. I mean, enormous fun, but very, very fast and very low on time and a very interesting game. And what do we learn? Well, what we learn is loads of tactics, but what we learn is this is an interesting move. People do play this, d4, d5, g3, and I think new to mankind, new to humankind, the move e5 is a good try, and it worked out this time. So, you know, I mean, admittedly, there are probably some improvements for both sides because it's a blitz game, but it worked out this time, and, you know, one to think about in the future. I think generally this style of playing for the initiative and playing interesting moves that are not probably strictly mathematically sound in a kind of computer sense, it leads to interesting chess, doesn't it? So congratulations to both players for playing an incredibly exciting, you know, I mean, these moves around here, when the king was sort of in the corner, you know, this stuff down the F file by black, it looked absolutely hair-raising here, but this, you know, pawn f3, bishop, to find this move by black, and then, but white, you know, white's better. I mean, well, white's better, black's better. You know, it doesn't quite, none of it quite lands, and actually, even in a classical game, that would be mind-bending, but in Blitz, I'm sure it's impossible to work through all the ramifications. I mean, I myself don't know them all, having looked at it, and by the way, looked at it 4 or 5 times. This isn't the first time I've looked at it. So, great game, interesting, sort of chess as art, panic, and all the emotions, really. Next, we'll look at one of Gareth's.